So the RFM analysis produces not only the graphical output, okay, which we can examine to understand the different cubes in the RFM, it produces an output file like this. So it gives you for each record, okay, so this is what the input columns were. So it produces a column of recency score, column of frequency score, column of monetary score, and then the RFM score, combined RFM score. Okay. Now what kind of output or report that we want to produce for further action? Okay. Now we have already determined that 0.067 or 6.7% response rate is a threshold. So we need to figure out what is the actual response rate for each of the RFM cubes. And for that we need whether a particular customer responded or not, and remember we have that information in the original file. So if you go to the original file, the original data also includes one column. All right, so there is a column called respond, and that column indicates whether the customer responded to the previous promotional campaign that we had. Okay. So we're going to use that information to figure out how many, from each cube, how many customers responded, or what is the proportion of customers who responded. Okay. Now this respond is a 0-1 variable. There it is. So respond, okay, 1 means the customer responded, 0 means customer did not respond. We have to get that information into this table. Okay, this table is based on customer ID. It has all that column of information. This table has customer ID right here, and then the RFM scores. But we want the respond column into this table so we can then figure out what is the proportion of customers who actually responded for each RFM score. So how do we get that information into this table? Well, we use Query Builder. Okay, so now we have the RFM table right here, and then we join, we add a table, okay, and we add that one. So it's a good idea to give nice names to these, so you'll be able to identify what is what. So for example, here, instead of just simply having Query Builder, so here the output file name, you can say original data table or something. Okay. Now here, let me also add here in this Query Builder, we don't have the respond, so we need to add that respond variable in here. Okay, so it will be available for us to add to the table, and if there is any other information that you want to add, we need to add that here. Okay, so we have everything that we need. So the respond column is available in this table. Okay, so now this table name is different from here, so the recency gets disconnected. So what we need to do is to go and change the input data. So select input data to original data table. So now this one gets separated out and we don't need it anymore, so we can delete that. So now we have a new flow with the name of the table more understandable. Okay. So now let's go to the RFM table, and we are going to add a query builder and join table, add table. So now we have original data table. Okay. Now we connect with customer ID. Make sure that this is properties. Let's see, it is now connecting with $24, which is not what we want. Okay, because it has the same column name, the automatic join is on $24, which is not good. So instead, we are going to, okay, so let's go ahead and delete that join and then connect it with customer ID. So now we have customer ID equal to customer ID, so that's good. Now let us get, so what do we want here? We want customer ID, okay, and how much dollars were spent by the customer, okay, and we want the RFM score, frequency of purchase, and well, we don't have days last. Okay, let's put recency in here. Okay. All right. We are still at the customer level. So now how do we compute the proportion of responses for each RFM score? So we want the average respond for each RFM score. So the response are zeros and ones. So if we add up all the responses for a given RFM, the sum will give you the number of customers who responded for each RFM score, combined RFM score, right? If you find the average, then what would that give you? Average of that particular RFM score for a given RFM score. If you add them, that will give you the number of customers who responded. If you find the average, that will give you the proportion of customers who responded, right? So it will be the add and divide by the total number of customers. Okay. So what we can do here is to create a new computed column. See, remember, we have done these two before. We have done advanced expression, we have done recoded columns. Now, we have not done summarized column. So we're going to use summarized column. Summarized column is going to summarize the information for that given column. So we're going to summarize what? We're going to summarize respond. Okay. Now so here let's go. Let's call it percent respond, right? So you have to change the summary to average. If you say sum, then it will simply give you the total number of customers within each RFM. That's not what we want. And we want the format to be okay. We want the format to be percent. Okay, and let's say 2 decimal places, and maybe let's keep it stun.com. All right. No, but we have not stated at what level the summary should take place. Should the summary be for the entire data set, or summary should be for each RFM combined 3-digit RFM score? We want it for 3-digit RFM score, right? So how do we specify that? Well, you finish. Now when you do a summarized column, then there is a new window that opens up right here, and it will automatically insert all the possible columns by which you can do the summarization. Okay, so that would be automatic. So if you automatically summarize, it's going to summarize based on customer ID, $24, and blah blah blah. So we don't want that. We want the summarization only for the RFM score, based on RFM score. Each unique RFM score, you want the average response. So you have to uncheck this, then say edit groups, and bring in the RFM score. So that is the RFM score. So you have the RFM score right there. So now, okay, the information is going to be summarized based on the RFM score. Okay, it's good. Now you run. All right. So here we now have one record for each customer ID, and for each customer ID, this gives you the percentage of responses for the RFM cube to which that customer ID belongs. So it will be for RFM score of 122, the percentage response is this. So if the RFM score changes to something else other than 122, then you will see a different So here, for a different RFM score, you have a different percent response. All right. There is one more thing we should do, which is go and modify task. All right. So let's go ahead and filter only those average scores, average response that meets the threshold. Okay. So we can filter based on the percent respond. Okay. And here you have to see there are two windows here. If you're going to filter from raw data, the original data, you will use this window. If you're going to filter based on the summarized data, you have to use this window. So you have to drag and drop here. If you try to drag and drop here, it won't work. So drag and drop here, and then you say greater than or equal to 0.067. Okay. Now you run it again. So now this time only the number of the customers, the list of customers reduces to 15,000 from 40,000. Okay. Now we can do so from here you can then do a list task. Okay, list data, and by you can include the information that you want. Okay, and you can group this by RFM score. So this will give you a list of customers that you want to contact. So of course you can sort this by response or percentage response or whatever. This is one kind of report. So this will be an action report. This will identify the exact customers and then the percentage response of the cube to which the customer belongs. Okay, so this is one kind of report that you can generate. There is one more report that you can generate. So that would be, so here, okay, so if you have the customer ID here, since you have the customer ID and the customer ID related information, then the output is going to be at the customer ID level. So instead, suppose you want the average. Okay, so give me a couple of minutes. Okay, so I'll finish with this. Suppose we want RFM level information. Okay, so put RFM in there, and let's do a summarized column. So we're going to average, so let's do an average dollar. Okay. And then let's say that we want how many customers are there in each RFM cube. So let's take customer ID and we will select count distinct. How many distinct customers are there? So n of customers. Okay, and let's say that this will be like 5.0. Okay. And then we want the average score, average response. Okay, summarize. So we'll take what is the response? Oh, we have to join table here. Then only you'll get the response. So customer ID. Okay. So now we have respond. Okay, so we're going to do a summarized for respond. So that will be the average. So we have average response, and we will change that to a percent. Okay. So now, so again, you're now going to summarize at the level of RFM score, and you don't have the customer ID in here, right? So now see what happens. Now you have only the distinct RFM scores. It's not at the customer ID level. Now if you further filter based on the average response being greater than or equal to 0.067, now you see the list of RFM cubes, just the RFM cubes, okay, that meet our criteria of 0.067. And for each RFM cube, you have the average dollar spent on the number of customers in each RFM cube. So you have two different reports. So this is a detailed report, and the reason for that is in this query we have customer ID as one of the columns that we want to use in the output report. So that your output from the query is going to be for each customer. So you have a detailed report. Now this query, on the other hand, does not have the customer ID, only the RFM score, so it is at the RFM score level. Now if you bring in customer ID and you put it in here, then the second query also will generate a huge big output at the customer ID level.